welcome to the latest edition of For Owners by Owners, where the team here at Shop Controller is really looking to make an impact and bring more value to the automotive industry by connecting owners, former owners, service writers, and other trusted individuals in the industry, get them together, share their expertise, share their knowledge, and make the automotive industry the best, most productive place that we can. So, as always, I'm your host, William Fairbanks. I'm joined by my special guest, CEO of Shop Controller, Mike. Mike, how you doing this morning?
Fantastic. Another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Thanks, William.
Another beautiful day. And I got Paul Wein with us, our most valuable player today, our very, very special guest. He's done everything that you could possibly do in the automotive industry. Most recently, he's written a book. Paul, you want to hold that book up for us again?
I sure do.
So, Superstar Service Advisor by Mr. Paul Wein. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
So we'll dive right in. We'll get real easy. So, Paul, tell us a little bit about your experience. Like, how did you get in the automotive industry? Tell us some about your shops. Where your shop's located. What did your shops do? What the specialties?
Oh yeah. Well, the shop is it's in Kennebunk. I don't know if I can say the name or not, but I will. It's Swedish Imports. I've been there for a long time, and it's a high-end European shop. Kennebunk is a real exclusive community. It's pretty rich, I guess, and a lot of summer vacationing people from Massachusetts have summer homes up there, and they all have European cars in their garage. Then there's enough locals, so that's the niche. I've got 4 of the best technicians I've ever had, and I've been doing all this stuff with cars. This is my 48th year, so pretty old. I started really young.
Just a young man, you started when you're like, in diapers.
Yeah, well, I kind of did, yeah. So I started when I was 16 by necessity. My parents died, and I had to go get a job, and it was cars. Every 16-year-old boy wants to work on cars. Now I'm a 64-year-old boy, and I still like it. But so I started out as a mechanic, then kind of went into parts, then went into parts and service. Then service and service management. Then, and this is between dealerships and independents. And I've been, parts manager, service manager, general manager, shop owner. Then, and now I'm a writer, shop owner. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, did you always have, like, in your mind, was the goal always to be like the shop owner, or maybe it was the goal always to be the author, and these were just the stepping stones, or when you set out when you were 16 and you said, hey, you're just getting into this to feed your dog, I love that. The dog's got to eat, I love it. But you start off at the bottom, right? You start off by like, hey, I'm going to get in, I'm going to do what I love, and I'm going to work my way up. So I'm just really curious for all the other folks that are, striving to be owners, was that the end goal? Was that what you wanted? Or did you just get into, doing this because that was something you were into at the time?
It was just a progression, and early on I realized, I go, this is the hand I was dealt. Okay, I'm going to be working on cars. And my oldest brother said, he goes, I can't believe that you're working on cars. He goes, well, you're going to be the best mechanic ever, because I was kind of like a bookworm and whatever. So I go, that's right. And so I would go home every night, think about what I did wrong, and learn from it as a mechanic. And then it went into parts, and same thing. But then when I got into parts, then I was dealing with people, and I wasn't good at that. I was very shy and withdrawn, and I was a mechanic. So I had to learn that. And then I found out that people are kind of more fun than cars. But I had the mechanical background now, and that led into service. And then I loved writing service. It was because I can tell you, customer, in simple terms, what's wrong with your car and why you should buy it and what it needs. And people could tell I was telling the truth, and I liked it. But I made a lot of mistakes, and I would go home and think about it. How can I be better at this? And if this job's gonna feed my family, I'm gonna be good at it, And then I blinked my eyes, and my 2-year-old daughter was 33, and I go, but to answer the question, no, I never really planned for this. But I'm not ashamed of it either. It's like I did the best I could, and it's an honest way to make a living. There's a lot of changes coming up, and I have some input to that, and I want to write about that. I think that we're right on the cusp of this whole game is going to change, and I know enough from different angles of it where I can throw my 2 cents into it.
Yeah, well, that makes
Speaking
sense.
of that, Paul, where do you think that change is? Where do you think that crux is that you're talking about, the turning point for this
biggest thing
industry?
is I'll throw out a little story here, just because my book has got a lot of stories in it to illustrate my points, and they stick in your mind better, at least for me. So I went to McDonald's. I snuck to McDonald's. I was actually going to get my inspection license renewal in Maine, and I was hungry and I was early. So oh man, I haven't been there in years. I'm going. So I bought a number 2 breakfast deal, whatever. And the lady's all really nice lady, older lady, $11.77, she says. And I gave her the money and I pulled over and looked at the receipt. Is that right? I was expecting $5, you know, that's how long it's been. So I'm kind of angry about it because I'm a frugal Yankee and I'm cheap. And I'm kind of glowering, thinking about it. And I'm looking at the sign, McDonald's, I'm never coming back here. And right below it was a sign that said $19 an hour to start. You know, come inside and fill out an application. I'm on $19. That's more than my lube tech makes. Flipping burgers, what? And I look across the street and there's a Burger King out of business. And then I take a bite of the sandwich and it was the best sandwich I've ever eaten in my life. Well, this is amazing. So I started thinking about it. Yeah, it's kind of too much, but yeah, this is great product with nice service. And for the next 2 weeks, I kept thinking about it. I got to have another one of those biscuits. So I went to another McDonald's. It was all mediocre. I'm never coming back. So I know it's a long way around, but that's automotive. There's a big mechanic shortage, just like there's a fast food shortage. They're going to everything's going to double in price. Is the way I see it. Our shop rate, $150 an hour, make it $300 an hour. But we have to get it to that point, to have the best mechanics and to have people want to be mechanics, technicians, and pay them what they're worth. We have to have a better product. We have to have the best biscuit ever, every time. And then if we can charge that much, we can pay the techs $40, $50 an hour, like we're going to have to. We'll still make a profit. There will be a little growing pain, a little curve, but the guys who aren't charging enough are going to be out of business. And that's how it was in California during like the late 90s, early 2000. If you didn't charge enough, you're out of business like that. Parts costs are so high, labor is hard to get. But if you pay people the most, you're going to have a line of mechanics out your door. But you have to deliver the product first. So my book is to try and up the grade of the product. And no one wants to raise their prices. No one wants to be the first. But that's what I would say is where it's got to go. Is the guys who raise their prices the first and deserve to raise their prices, they're going to stay in business. Other people aren't. It's going to be so expensive to fix your car that it's going to be a privilege, not a right, like people are saying now. There's going to be a lot more Uber. I mean, just finding technicians. I don't know where it is in your neck of the woods, but I think it's nationwide. It's just very hard. No one wants to get into it. And then long term, I think we were saying is getting more females involved. I think they are the untapped resource. Is get women. They make great mechanics. Small hands. They're tough. Attention to detail. That's the long term. So if I was starting over, I would start doing that. I would be training a female work crew. I'm kind of rambling now, but I would say raising prices is the first thing that people have to do because it's changing so fast. The cost of parts now, a little tub of grease, $7. It was 89 cents. If you don't stay on top of the matrix, and I know your software does do that, and that's critical. If you're selling stuff too cheap and prices are going up every day, you're out.
Yeah, Paul, that makes complete sense. I mean, the labor of the workforce is critical to running any business. So lessons learned there. So if you had to go back, I know you talked about a little bit about, how you would staff your shop, but maybe think back when you opened that first shop and you're working with your partner and you're looking to recruit people. How did you go find those people? Because you're, like you're saying, maybe you're a smaller town, but maybe more of a higher end community, and you need to go find that workforce. How did you find them?
Treating your people right, and then the word gets out among the technician community, and I bust my knuckles every day. Well, not anymore, but up until just a month ago. And they have the hardest job. Service writing is very hard as well, I got to say. But in the trenches, and especially out here in New England with the rust and stuff, they have just a tough job. And you can really help them out by not taking in bad jobs, being very selective. And I think that's where people miss the boat by far the most out here, is in appointment making and appointment taking. That's usually delegated to the least experienced person, because now who wants to answer a million questions? And that's where I think we really miss the boat, is when people call and they're asking for price. Some of them care about price, but not many. They're interviewing you. They're seeing if you're friendly, if you're nice. How do you sound? Do you sound like you know what you're talking about? Do they want to come in? But the common denominator is price. They don't know about cars. They know about price. They know about money. Let's talk about that. So then our shop owners were going, this cheap guy, all he wants to talk about his money. It's like, no, that's how he's opening the conversation. So the electronic capabilities are great for appointment making. I think about this a lot, and I'm not a software guy by any means, but if it's an established customer, give them a password to get into your appointment matrix. They can make their own appointments. I know you, I trust you. But I've also learned that, and I've done the math on it because I'm a nerd, but 5% of my customers take up 30% of my time. Those are loser jobs. Those are people you should have never taken in, who hog their way into the shop because every other shop turned them away. And now they're in your shop and they're causing you a headache. The mechanics hate you for taking it in. And I don't see a way of really around that with electronic appointment making. So you always need to have time to talk to new appointment people. If they start making their own appointments, which is the trend now, you're asking for a little bit of trouble, unless you have unlimited personnel and a huge shop. I never had that. And the other thing too is my big mantra would be don't try to be all things to all people.
Yeah,
it's like you have to select what you're going to do it great, make that biscuit perfect. But people get greedy. They go, I work on European cars. Oh yeah, your Chevrolet, you see dollar signs. Yeah, bring it in. Well, the technicians, they don't know how to do it. You don't have the software, you don't have the tools. So I think just staying in your lane, unless again, you're a huge shop and you can take in everything. And I've never had that luxury.
Yeah, no,
Gotcha.
specialization and, zeroing in, maybe sticking with a little bit of the food approach, the Chick-fil-A's of the world, right? Be the best chicken sandwich out there.
Right. Yeah,
There you
or
go.
even Jiffy Lube. You look at their business model and it seems ridiculous, but that cabin filter, and then you look at the numbers, and that's the other thing is people get mesmerized by their numbers, but you got to analyze them and finding that balance. And I hear a lot of people, shop owners, they'll go, I need to spend more time on my business, not in my business. I got an argument with that. It's like I see way too many people go into their office and hide in the computer and start looking at numbers. It's like, well, buddy, that ain't going to do it. I don't think. I think you need to be out there. It's a hands-on business. It's a people business, and sometimes you get sick of people, but that's where the money comes from. The cars don't drive themselves in.
Right. Paul, I think that you gave a pretty simple formula to success, and I try to just recap it really quickly. Tell me if I missed anything, but it sounded to me like you said, start a successful business, especially in this industry, hire people, train them to be the best, pay them like they are the best, and then they will in turn go and get you the best customers. It kind of sounds like that's kind of what the path that you were going down. Does that sum it up pretty well?
Yeah, and every place is different, has different needs and stuff. But I think in general, yes, that's a criteria I believe in.
And what do you think is the biggest hurdle for shop owners to do that today? Because we know, as we're all sitting here, the majority of consumers do not believe that the shops out there have that formula. So what is stopping them? I know we kind of talked about how to do it, but what is stopping them today from doing that?
What was your last sentence?
What is just stopping the shops and the shop owners today from kind of having that simple formula of the best equals the best?
I would say it is trying to be all things to all people is you're going to get scrambled. The cars are too complicated today. You got to kind of focus on that. Then you can focus on the right people and then the right customers. But if you're trying to be all things to all people, then you're running around and putting out fires is I think where you waste all your time is and losing money on jobs. If you spend the time to be more selective. If I was more selective about what I ate last night, I want feeling sick to my stomach today. So that's what appointments. With appointments, when you're making appointments, you're picking out the groceries that your crew is going to eat next week. And if you buy all potato chips, that's no good. If you buy all stuff that needs a lot of it, you need to have a mix going. And people want to blow through the appointment process, and you really need to interview your customer. Because that win-loser job can ruin your day, ruin your night. And of course, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to break bolts and stuff like that. But a lot of this is self-inflicted through laziness. So I think it really making the appointments, appointment loading, 20 appointments a day. What does that mean? 20 oil changes, 20 timing belts? No, it's hours. But I think greed is the big problem, because people want to be all things to all people, and they get in over their head and they drown.
Got it. Hey, so Paul, do you coach the service advisors? Like, whose role do you feel that is at the shop? Is that the shop owner's role to actually do that schedule loading? Do you feel like it's the coaching that needs to come from the top down to the service advisors? Is it a team approach? Maybe, dig into that a little bit for the audience.
Sure. Yep. I think generally shop owners aren't great service advisors. Some are the best. I mean, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush here, but they usually start out as mechanics or technicians who aren't people. And again, automotive industry, people business. So if you, and I see a lot of female, lady service advisors at the dealerships, and they do very well because there's all the information they need is right there with the technicians. They can get it. It's right there on the internet where an 8-year-old could look it up. And they're good with people. They can read people better. But as to the question, training is important, and keeping the right attitude. And grumpy shop owners, Joe's garage. It's like, yikes, who wants that? So if you want to grow your business, and you got to pass that interview. Every time you pick up the phone, you got to pass the interview. And see if you want that person or not, and be selective and not try and please everyone. Yeah.
So the training's still coming from maybe then hiring the right service advisors that can support the scheduling and the loading.
Yeah, and it's funny because now that the technicians need a bigger piece of the pie, and you need a certain amount to run the shop, the only logical place where you can trim is service advisor. And software is such now that a lot of it, punch a button, say, you need tires, and it sends the customer something. And there was one software that we had at a dealer, and it would automatically give you a description of the part you were recommending, which is great until you recommend tires. And it would say, a tire is a round object, usually made of rubber. It's like, then you're talking down to people. And so the human element is what not to say and what to say are very important. So I think having a lead service advisor that you actually pay a lot pays for itself. And people don't want to do that. They want to trim costs with their service advisor. And I don't go with that. I think if 100% of zero is zero, if you're not selling anything, tech's got no work.
Yep.
Of course, this would be an excellent way to teach.
Right? Yeah. There you go.
Wow, man, absolutely. You talked a little bit about the software a couple of times, Paul, and so as we move into the future, and technology and AI and all those things become a much more present in all of business, especially in our industry. How does the successful shop owner today manage that? I guess that balance that you talked about of automation and doing as much as you can with technology, but still keeping that kind of personable relation. Good culture in the shop. Where is that balance at today?
Great question. And cell phones, pictures. people forever, since I was a young man changing points in a Mercedes, they want to come out in the shop. They don't want to talk to a guy in a white shirt. They want to talk to the greasy guy about my car. And but technicians don't want people out in the shop, you know. But I did notice over the years, every time I took a customer out to the shop and showed them those brakes, they bought it. They understood. They saw it. But the technician, so with software and taking pictures and taking movies, it's wonderful. That's a game changer. That changes the whole perspective of a customer. Now that it's not a voice on the phone trying to sell them brakes, that's their car driving their children, and those are your brakes, buddy. And you know, and that's 1 millimeter.
Yeah.
That's a butterfly wing. And people are starting to use it, but it's awkward. But truly, I think that is, people want information. Some people don't. Some people, they're embarrassed that they don't already know it. Men, you know, sometimes they go, yeah, you know, they don't want to be proven that which they don't know. But software for pricing, and I learned a lot moving back to New England, is the rust factor. And you can throw all data out the window. It doesn't matter. It's like, as in the book, I say, go talk to the tech, look at it, take a picture, send it to the customer, and triple all data, whatever it takes, whatever is real. And also with software, it saves you enough time, not so you can go fishing to me, but that you can add the human element. So save it where you can electronically. But when you're answering those phones, they still want to talk to a person. Many do. The younger generation, they just want to text. But the younger people don't call and they don't make an appointment if they've never been there. They want to talk to somebody. Yeah. So yeah, I think not going too far on the appointment thing, but I really like the idea of regular customers, you know, and I don't know if this is possible. I'm not a software guy. I'm a baby boomer. If you enter the appointment matrix or whatever, that's probably the wrong word, is enter your license plate number. Oh, you're an existing customer, move on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
I'll shut up. I could go on as long as you guys, you'd be my age by the time we got off this podcast. I love talking about it.
If you were going to start today, Paul, we got the book and we understand how to train people and give the best. Outside of those few things, if you were going to start over today and you were going to open a brand new shop, what would you do different today than you did so many years ago with all the resources that you have at hand?
Well, I would hire people like you guys, younger people who know that which I do not know, the electronic stuff, the Facebook stuff, social media stuff, because that is where the younger people are going. And you know, I think I'm 21, and then I look in the mirror, and I go, "Hey, Dad, what are you doing here?" You know, so I realized I don't know what I don't know, and so hiring a better mix. People like to hire people like themselves, and maybe that's why women aren't in the workforce. People go, "Oh, yeah, he's just like me as a young man. Let's hire him." But no, I think I would hire a broader mix of nationalities, maybe, or different people, because I don't know everything. I know a lot, and I burn my hand a lot, but don't know everything. And I think I would go that route. And old technicians don't usually make good service advisors. But that's not always true too. So I would look for old retired mechanics to talk to people if they got a good personality. Girls, I mean ladies, they don't like to be called girls. Yeah, I would just be more diverse, but I would also go into it knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I would go, in my case, I would go European cars because I know that the best. You're dealing with a little more affluent person who loves their car versus, you know, likes their car. Easier to sell to, and everything else will work itself out. Is just, yeah, pick your goal and get good at it.
Yeah, it's all about the people. You know, as I've scaled and grown multiple businesses now, finding those rock stars to add on your team that have the skills and the experiences that, you know, you need to help you get to your next step is exactly those individuals that you got to recruit and build your business around. Because, you know, then it's not more of like, hey, you having to train them all the time. They're, you know, the A players that know exactly what to do. And then you give them the freedom to go do their job and then just enjoy it, and then you can just love on them, and then everything else works out.
Yep. As my kids would say, let them cook. Let them cook,
Yeah.
Dad. If you let them cook,
Yeah.
they'll be
Yeah.
good, man.
And like you said, is let them use their expertise and give them faith, give them trust. Like at a lot of dealerships, if you tell somebody no, they want a boss who might say yes, and then they lose all credibility. But if you trust your guys enough to say, if this is a loser job, do what you got to do. This is what you want. You want to give them a discount, do what you got to do. You got to build that trust, and then you can do other things.
Well, I have one last question, and it's probably the most important question of the episode. Where can our audience and listeners go find your book? How can they get their hands on that book?
Amazon. It's a Superstar Service Advisor, which is probably easier to remember than my name, which is Paul Wein. You can search that name also. And yeah, I would recommend it for anybody who deals with the public, and that could be someone answering the phones. And it's not just for service advisors. I think I sound like a salesman now, but I think everyone who works on cars and people will save a lot of gray hairs by reading it, because it's mistakes that I've made, and that's all experience is, right? Mistakes that you made that you learned from, and I made plenty, so it might save you some mistakes.
Nice.
And yeah, Amazon.
Well, I just love this. I love your experience. I love your passion.
Yes.
I just love the positivity that you bring to every answer, that you've done here on this this interview. No, I think it's great. Ramble. I think people are going to have a kick out of listening to you, and I just hope you have an amazing weekend and just a blessed rest of your life, man. It's been an honor getting to know you, and thanks for being on the show.
Same here, and I appreciate you very much, and you guys have a great day. Great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Paul.
Happy Saturday coming up. All right, guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, William. Another great job.
Yep.
Appreciate it all.
Thanks,
you guys have a great weekend.
Talk to y'all soon.
Bye.
All right.